Hi, I'm Stan Shelley from Shelley and Son Books. In just a minute, we're going to be starting our weekly broadcast about old books. And this week we have a very interesting one, The Old Man and the Sea, and I'm going to be talking about it because there's a special lesson to be learned for book collectors by looking at that book. So you'll learn something, even if that book doesn't interest you, you'll learn something about book collecting with this little talk. We always chat just a little bit in the beginning to give some people a chance to join us, and we want to encourage you to say hi and send us hearts and ask questions. We'd be happy just right in the middle of the broadcast to take a question and field it. So we just want to stimulate dialogue about old books and collecting old books. So today I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Our book is The Old Man and the Sea. John, you want to give him a shot of that? The Old Man and the Sea was written by Ernest Hemingway, who by 1952 was very, very famous. The book came out in 1952. It was very popular. It won the Pulitzer Prize. When they gave Hemingway the 1954 Nobel Prize for Literature, they mentioned The Old Man and the Sea as one of his great works. So it's truly one of the important, great pieces of literature of the 20th century. So we're talking about a real important book here. The first thing I want to do is just tell you how to know if you've got a first edition, because a lot of you may have a copy on your shelf from your parents or something like that. So we're going to look at the book. There's the standard way you tell a first edition for a Scribner's book after 1930 is it has to have two things: the letter A and the Scribner seal. When you have those two things, you have a first edition. So this is a first edition of The Old Man and the Sea. Actually, we're working with a facsimile of the first edition, but the A and the seal are what indicate the first edition of The Old Man and the Sea. The other thing is if you're on the reverse, you don't have one to sell, but you're trying to buy one, you're going to collect. One caution is you want to watch out for book club copies. They made a zillion book club copies of this book. So let me tell you how you know if you've got a book club copy instead of a first edition copy, because they look very, very similar. But two things. On the dust jacket, on the first edition it says $3. The book club edition, there is no price there. Second thing, inside the book, first edition has the Scribner seal. Book club edition does not have the Scribner seal. So that's the way you know the book club edition. And most collectors do not want book club edition. You might say you're just collecting Pulitzer Prize books and you don't care. That's fine. But it's important that you know how to identify book club from non-book club. So with this tremendously important book, Pulitzer Prize winner, Ernest Hemingway, great author, one of the great books of the century. This book must be worth thousands of dollars, right? No. And that's today's lesson. Just because a book is great, it's not worth huge money. This book was printed in 1952, and in the first run, they printed 50,000 copies. That's a lot. So a lot of those 50,000 copies are still around. It is not a scarce book. So just compare that to one of the early Hemingway books done in the 20s, Men Without Women. The first run was less than 8,000 copies. So that's a much scarcer book. So scarcity has a lot to do with value. Even if it's a great book, if it's not scarce, it's not real valuable. So if you had, for instance, a copy of this without the dust jacket and you went to sell it, you probably would not get $100. You certainly would not get over $200, even for a nice condition one. If you have a dust jacket, you might get $200 or $300 if the condition is nice. So you can see we're not talking about a book worth $5,000 and $10,000 like some of the books we talk about. So it's important to know that supply and demand plays a real role here. And if there's a lot of supply, that holds the price down. And this is the last great book Hemingway wrote. And a pretty good rule is the earlier in a writer's career a book is, the more likely it is to be valuable. The later in his career, the more likely it is to be less valuable, because as he got better known, the publishing company produced a lot more first printings. So that's our lesson for the day, is just because a book is great doesn't mean it's super valuable, and you need to do your homework on that. Next week we will be doing another book. We haven't decided yet what we'll do, but we've done literature for maybe 3 weeks in a row here, so we'll probably switch to some nonfiction next week to try to give you some ideas about collecting nonfiction. So if you have any questions or comments, you are welcome to email us. Our email address is shelleyandsonbooks@gmail.com. Shelley is Shelley, shelleyandsonbooks@gmail.com. Our website is www.shelleyandsonbooks.com. So with that, we'll end it, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.